When Charles Kennedy's son asked a chilling question in 1870, "Can't you smell the one Papa put under the floor?" it would bring about the brutal end to the Wild West serial killer's murderous spree. In 1865, Charles Kennedy, a large, thick-bearded man, had moved to an area near Eagle Nest, New Mexico, known as the Moreno Valley, with his family, Rosa, a Ute Native American, and their 3-year-old son. The family built a rest stop for travelers at the base of the Palo Flachado Pass, located between Taos and Elizabethtown. Rest stops just like this one could be found across the region, providing a place of reprieve for weary travelers. When much of this area was unsettled and only vaguely explored, countless people came to start fresh, to build a new life for themselves and their families. Some, however, would never leave the Kennedy family rest stop. Charles would pick out travelers seemingly at random, steal their belongings and their lives. Finally, he would refuse them the respect of a proper funeral by either burning or burying the remains. These murders may well have gone unreported, the victims doomed to be forgotten, their killer free, had it not been for Rosa's admission. After all, in the chaos of the ongoing gold rush in this era, who would notice a handful of folks disappearing? Couple that with the fact that this region was dangerous for those unprepared for life on the frontier, and you have a recipe for murder and escaping justice. This was not the first time Charles would have a close call with justice, however. In fact, Charles had been under suspicion in the case of a missing Taos citizen. Law enforcement, or what passed for such back then, had located the belongings, including pack mules and a horse, of a prominent Taos man on Charles's property. However, the man had managed to convince them that he was innocent. He claimed that he discovered the animals and belongings and figured the owner had been attacked by the local Apache people. As attacks like these were common, the police took Charles at his word, leaving the property. However, one of the investigators didn't quite buy the story, as they believed that Apache enjoyed mule meat, meaning they were unlikely to leave the animals alive or behind. Because of this, that investigator would continue to believe that Charles Kennedy had had a hand in the disappearance. Unfortunately, this didn't prove to be adequate evidence, and so they had to leave Charles alone, to the great misfortune of others who would come to stay with them. Around a year later, the family had received another traveler. During the evening meal, the innocent traveler had asked a simple question: did the surrounding area contain many natives? According to the stories, Rosa's son, now 9, had replied with the chilling words, "Can't you smell the one Papa put under the floor?" Shock had understandably gripped the room. Unfortunately for everybody, Charles recovered first. Grabbing his firearm, he shot and killed the travelers, then bashed his own son's head against the fireplace, killing the child. He moved the 2 bodies into the cellar, locked his wife inside the house, and drank himself stupid, passing out from the alcohol. Rosa, not willing to accept her fate, attempted to escape her captivity by climbing up and out of the chimney. She made it and began to run, heading for what she hoped was safety. While she ran towards town, with images of her 9-year-old son in her mind, his skull broken open by her husband, she must have felt deep, unbearable pangs of regret at not speaking up before now. Today, however, she was determined to repent, to alert the people of what her husband had been doing to the travelers who came to stay at the Kennedy family rest stop. In the town saloon, Rosa sat, exhausted and scared out of her wits, explaining everything. The deaths of the traveler and her own son, the murders of the other guests, more than she could count, or so it seemed, everything her husband had done in the last 5 years of torment. Clay Allison, a local rancher with a penchant for booze and a temper to match Charles, led the group that hunted him. Allison, the closest thing to a hero for this story, was renowned for his gunslinging skills and seemed to have a knack for always being in the thick of things when things hit the fan. While his group dragged Charles to town, the second group uncovered a handful of human bones, blackened, still sitting in the fireplace. The 2 bodies in the cellar and 2 human skeletons hidden beneath the house. Later on, a third skull was discovered, as well as a witness who claimed to have seen one of the murders. This witness, upon hearing of the events of that night, came forward to testify. On October 3rd, Charles Kennedy was given a pretrial, wherein the witness gave his testimony, stating that he had seen Charles murder a traveler. It's even estimated that his kill count may be as high as 14, but we know for sure that 5 distinct pieces of evidence were uncovered: the bodies of his son and the traveler, 2 complete skeletons, and 1 human skull mentioned in the opening. Therefore, while we can assume he may have killed 14, some sources claim he killed as many as 100 travelers who passed through his door. After the pretrial, Charles was to be held until a grand jury could be assembled. However, rumors, whether unfounded or not, began, saying that Charles's lawyer had found a way to buy the freedom of his client. Half a week after the rumors began, Allison and a group of townsfolk sprang Charles from jail, tossed a rope around his neck, and rode up and down Main Street, dragging him behind them while on horseback until Charles was dead. The town banded together and refused to give Charles the dignity of being buried in the Catholic cemetery, instead burying him just outside the cemetery. According to local legend, though, only the remains of Charles from the neck down were buried here, with his head instead being impaled outside the saloon of Henry Lambert for an entire year. However, we know this cannot be true, as that saloon would not open until 1872, well over a year after Charles died. But is there a grain of truth to the legend that some part of Charles Kennedy still remains to this day? Rumors swirl from time to time, claiming that some of his ill-gotten gains were buried in the Sangre de Cristo Mountains. If true, could this loot still be out there, the ghostly evidence of heinous crimes from almost 2 centuries ago?